Hi, it's Matthew Holt, another THCB Spotlight. I'm here with Nate Maslak. Nate is the CEO of Ribbon Health. Ribbon Health is in the business of provider information via APIs, and we're really going to dig into what that means because it's an incredibly complex story. But Nate, we just connected because you just raised a Series B. So let's get the glamorous stuff about the money out of the way before we get into the nitty-gritty of the data. So welcome, and tell me a little bit about the latest round.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. Really excited to be here. Latest round, we raised just north of $40 million. The round was led by General Catalyst, and we're excited to add them to the team and really continue to chip away at what is a really important problem that I know we'll talk about today.
Right. And who else do you have? Andreesen and some others on your cap table as well, is that right?
We do, yeah. So Andreesen, Horowitz, and Julie over there led our Series A, and then we're lucky to have a really strong set of other angel investors that represent health tech entrepreneurs, health plan executives, and beyond.
Right, and can't be that many people who both Andreesen and GC on the cap table. So that says something, you know. If you could put Oak on there as well, you'd probably almost have the trifecta of the three. All right.
I appreciate the plug if they're listening. Maybe one day.
Well, good. Well, all good people. Anyway, let's dive in a bit. So you're doing something which probably the average consumer of healthcare doesn't know exists, but knows is a really big problem, which is that they go to find a doctor, they have a health plan which they think is paying for the doctor, and they can't figure out whether the doctor's in the health plan or not, and they often show up, and we have had this issue, of course, people show up going to doctors thinking they're covered and not being covered and getting surprise bills or network bills or what have you. So can you, before we talk about how you fix the problem, can you describe the problem?
Yeah, happy to. It is a massive problem, and one that we didn't realize existed until it kind of hit us in the face. So at the highest level, our healthcare decisions today are made in highly siloed environments with inaccurate data or incomplete data or completely missing data. So when somebody's trying to figure out what to do when they're sick, if you think about the type of search process that we do, if I want Italian food with a Tuscan bend within half a mile of me, I pull up my phone, I'll find 7 restaurants in New York City, I'll know their hours, I'll know what's good, what's not. And if I need to find a doctor to help me with a physical, I can't really do that. Like, yes, there are a lot of tools out there for me to do the search, but when I go into the search, over 50% of just the phone number and address information is incorrect. And then after that, I have to worry about, is that doctor actually accepting my insurance plan, actually at that location? Do they see patients like me for the procedure that I need? No idea. And then are they good at it? Are they cost effective at that? Again, I have no clue. And so Ribbon exists to be able to solve that problem, but do so behind the scenes and really help power a lot of the great solutions that are out there.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about a situation I had probably a decade ago, maybe more. I can't remember. I was dragged up to Microsoft, and they were to be one of the dancing bears talking about, new health technology. And I was with a bunch of health plan folks. And somehow I have no recollection of the presentation, how it went this way, but I ended up in front of a whiteboard talking about exactly the problem you just talked about, right? Which is that we don't know enough about how to choose our doctors, and if we did, and aren't there all these different things we could choose on? So back in those days, there was like, are they using EMR or not? Do they speak this language or not? Do they take my health plan? Which gender are they? Do they like patients like me? Yeah. Anyway, so I started writing all this stuff out, and by the time I got to like 40 variables, I could just see I turned around and said, well, can you guys build that? And I could just see the room go, oh God, don't put that hands on the right going. Because, we know, and I've talked about Julie Yu, who was obviously at Curis, who's got part of this problem in their, in what they do. I think I had her in a session talking about this in Health Entrepreneur a few years back. Again, it's like this multifactorial equation, even if you knew the data. And then, as you mentioned, a lot of the time the data is wrong because the data has to arrive there from somewhere, either the doctor themselves or the plans or somebody. And there's been obviously a lot of policy issues and politics and complaints to health plans about the data being wrong in their directories and the data's being printed and all the rest of the stuff. So let's start with the data. I recall talking to the folks at Better Doctor years ago who were trying to aim at this same problem a while ago, that they were actually calling up practices to try and find out the data. How are you dealing with getting the data to be accurate, the phone numbers to be right, the health plan contracts to be right, all this? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a data problem at the end of the day. We take the belief that the right information is out there somewhere. We just don't know how to find it. And then when we do find it, we don't know what's right and what's wrong. And so to us, that's kind of the perfect application for predictive analytics or machine learning. And so the very first thing that we try to do is find all the information that could potentially be true. If there's a piece of information out there on a provider, we want that to hit our system. And so we have over 1,000 different data sources flowing in at any given time. We scrape the open web, we have partnerships, we buy data, we tap open government data sets. If there was data in space, we would go after that too. If there's any way to get that, we want that to hit our system. But we know that what we're getting at is largely junk. And just to give you a sense of it, we get over 50 phone numbers per doctor hitting our system.
50?
50.
Oh God. Right.
Yeah, it's a mess. And it's just phone numbers, right? Layer on addresses, layer on insurance plans, layer on the other 37 of the 40 attributes that you talked about. And the problem gets exponentially more difficult. And so we build predictive algorithms that can actually figure out how likely any one of those pieces of data is to be true or not. If 800 sources said that Dr. Smith is at 123 Main Street and she accepts Aetna Choice PPO there, and 200 say she's actually at 400 University and she does not accept that insurance plan anywhere, what's the probability that either or both of those combinations of sources are right or wrong? We assign a probability score to that, and that's what we distribute. And I think importantly, and then you could stop me from getting too deep into the weeds as much as I love it, we're really the only platform out there where the customers are actually contributing data back in. And so we believe that like there's so much valuable signal just happening through natural interactions. I call a doctor, someone refers out, a referral goes back, a piece of information gets sent, and they kind of get lost in the ether after that moment happens. And so we're capturing those moments for the better of our customers. So if one of our customers,
let me ask you about
ahead.
that. That's very interesting. So when you say that they're referring out, one physician's office is calling another and setting up a referral or whatever they're doing, how do you capture that? Because a lot of that stuff is either on the phone or is on fax or something. That isn't hitting a database to be scraped, I assume. So how are you doing that?
Exactly. It's not, but it should be. And so that's what we enable. Like it's living somewhere. And so when we work with our primary care customers, like in Oak Street Health, when they go and they book a referral for their patients, they really care about getting that referral right. It's really important for them, for their members or their patients. When they call and that referral goes through, they want to flag within their system that that doctor is there accepting that insurance plan. They are performing that procedure. And so we live behind the scenes of their referral workflow in their EMR, which is basically like a CRM of doctors. And we're powering that. And all of our customers get a private copy of Ribbon, so they can edit that or update that as they see fit. And so they'll flag that went through automatically. If the doctor is moving across the street next week, they'll type that in. That'll make an edit to that record in the same way that, again, we might do it in HubSpot if we are maintaining a customer record. That comes back to Ribbon. And so all of our customers are making these updates and edits and contributing whatever kind of data you can, patient satisfaction scores, quality data. We pool those insights and then we leverage those to train our models. So we're not taking data from customer X and moving it to customer Y, but rather maintaining this hub and spoke model and actually letting our customers drive this network effect so that all of them get a better product.
Oh, that's very smart. What about there's one problem, and maybe I don't know if this is still as big a problem as it used to be, but this is, we're now heading back a long while. I was stuck in the world of, briefly on a project, stuck in the world of dealing with end-stage renal disease and, dialysis centers and nephrologists. And there's a close connection between is the nephrologist at the dialysis center or not, and they're the same people, and there's a similar thing, I'm sure, with imaging centers and radiologists, and I'm sure there's a bunch of this like this, where you get people admitting to hospitals or ASCs or whatever, and where to some extent the end consumer may need to figure out, they may need to be directed to, I can imagine a drug company wants to get to the doctor, but the end consumer might want to get to the dialysis center or any of the number of equivalents. But there must be a lot of confusion, the sort of the crosswalk between the professional corporation, the doctor, the individual clinician, him or herself, and the facility. That must be a problem that I assume that comes up all the time as well.
It does. Yeah, I know you said going way far back, but I don't think that we have to go that far back.
It didn't get
this
fixed, is
problem.
what you're telling me in the last
Exactly.
10 years.
Yeah, it's something that we work with a lot of our customers on. And there's a notion of just the practice location, right? I want to go to this radiology center. Then there's the broader organization. I want to go to Cleveland Clinic for care. And then there's a combination of them. I want to find a cardiologist at this Cleveland Clinic location. All of these are open questions. And because of the provider graph that we've built, seeing all this different information, we can actually piece that together. So when we think about a directory or accepted insurance plans or all the other metadata we can layer on, we think about it both at the individual provider level, but also at the location level. Because like you said, I don't really care if I'm going to get an MRI, who the provider is, who's doing that MRI. Maybe in certain contexts, and maybe there's some differences, and there's nuance here that I'm kind of glossing over. But in general, as a patient, if I just need something that's pretty rudimentary and routine, I just want to go nearby and hopefully the place that's the cheapest nearby. So we enable that in our product.
So you hit on two things there, which we haven't got to so far. So one is cost, and there's a whole bunch of people who've tried over the years to do transparency and pricing, and kind of get you there at 4 a.m. because we'll do the cheap rate compared to you go in the middle of the afternoon. And yes, UCSF in San Francisco costs 3 times the local place down the imaging center down the street, and there's all that piece. And the other part is patient preference and patient rating. And if you look at particularly patient communities online, especially patient communities of people who have severe chronic or severe acute diseases like cancer, there's a lot of discussion about who's the best doctor, who uses the best techniques, who has the best bedside manner, but more, who might actually have the best outcomes. And figuring that out has been really, really hard. Is there a way that does that come into your system as well, or is that something to be coming later, or is that too far away for you to touch?
It does to some extent. So just to kind of pull back and set a broader context of what our product has in it, it starts with that directory layer of who is this human being, or what is this location? Like long before you find the best doctor, you want to make sure you're not showing up at a bank. You want to make sure you're showing up at the doctor's office. Then we layer on which insurance plan they accept. And then we start to layer on those other pieces of information like cost effectiveness and quality. And so we're kind of tapping into that, like the top part of that pyramid. When we think about those highly personalized moments of preferences, I personally believe that if we really drill down, every single person who needs care is going to have a slightly different set of preferences, that it's like a fingerprint. No two people are the same. And so it would be impossible for us to say, well, here's a good doctor for what, for whom, at what, so on and so forth. Our role to play here is to help provide as much information as is possible across the whole ecosystem so that a patient can find care and really make the best decision for them. I want a provider within 5 miles of me because I'm going to drive there, who accepts my insurance plan, who focuses on patients like me and they perform knee replacement surgeries, and they have a really high volume and they're cost effective at that, but there's certain things I care more about than others. We eliminate all of this information via our API, and then our customers plug it in. And because healthcare is inherently personalized, I think we'll see even more tools come up that are even more personalized. We want to power every single one of those.
Okay. Before I dive into the sort of the second part, like what do people pay you to do? Well, we've still been talking about the data. One thing you mentioned there, which is I mean, very, very common, and it's been a big issue. And I remember this is an issue I had with a family member. They needed back surgery, and it turned out the kind of back surgery they did was done by orthopedic surgeons, but not all orthopedic surgeons, and was done by neurosurgeons, but not all neurosurgeons. And trying to figure out, okay, so now I've got 2 listed as special, just got the health plan website has get specialist, and like you didn't know which one to choose and which one actually did that particular type of surgery. Is that something where there is enough obtainable information you can get to that in your system?
There is, yeah. So we can get enough signal across previous claims data, understanding what has this provider been doing, and then also looking at other information that we see on that provider. What is their specialty, information that credentialing companies might see that might feed into that. It all chips away at a piece of the pie. And I don't want to oversimplify because that's a really complex problem that you mentioned. And so it requires a lot of signal. And that's why we're pulling in all the different signal and then feed that into predictive models that can really digest that better than any one person can, to then hopefully make sense of that so that we can then make the right decision for us as patients or for the people we love and whom we're helping.
All right, so you built this fabulous complex data set with multifactorial stuff going in. You're doing predictive modeling to try and figure out which of the data you've got coming in is right, which is wrong, and make the best choice. And then you've got to create a business of somehow selling this data, or at least this platform to somebody. You mentioned Oak Street as being one. I assume health plans. Give me a sense of who is buying it and what they're using it for.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we have 3 core customer segments. Those are health plans, providers, and patient-facing solutions. And that's usually when we get a chuckle, because that is the vast majority of healthcare.
Right. Well,
but the reason that we go after all 3 of those segments is because that's where care decisions are being made. So our vision as a company, we're a very mission-driven company, is to power every care decision to be convenient, cost-effective, and high quality, which means we want to be everywhere that those care decisions are being made. And health plans call it steerage or data cleansing. Providers call it referrals or guidance. Care navigation calls it a navigation moment, a guidance moment. A patient calls it find care. It's all the same thing. What do I do when I need care, when I'm sick, or when I might be sick in the future? And how do I access that? So that's why we sell across those 3 different segments. And importantly, they all use the same product, just a little bit differently, which gives us different types of signal across those interactions, which then makes the product better for all 3 sets of those customers.
So dive in a little bit. So, I mean, pick an example of a health plan that works with you. What exactly is we've all been on the thing where we've seen the directory and search for a massive list of specialists, and God knows who they are. And, what do you do for a health plan you work with that changes the consumer experience for that?
Yeah. I'll walk through kind of a whole user story for one of our health plan customers. So in general, if you look at a health plan director, if you go online today, whatever health plan you have, go online, Google a doctor, search a doctor, Google a doctor outside of the health plan too. The information you're going to be seeing is usually under 50% accurate. And so what we do when we work with a health plan is to basically take in all of this information that they get. And it's not just that one piece of information on that provider directory. They're getting hundreds of different provider rosters, and it's a mess that they have to ingest. I have a lot of empathy for their problem. It's not that they don't care, it's that it's a hard problem to solve. Yeah. So we ingest all of that, and we'll take a look at all of that, and we basically run that through our algorithm. We automatically score all that information. And because health plans are very opinionated with what they want to do, some health plans will say anything that's above X% probability of accuracy, we can feed that in so that our members can see it off the bat, because we need a director. We want it to be accurate. Everything below X% accuracy or X% probability of being right, we're just going to totally throw out. The middle part will prioritize for attestation, and they have their own call centers, or we have a call center that can help them and supplement that information as well. And so we'll then tap into that. And so at the end of the day, what they're actually getting is they feed us a bunch of stuff, and then we cleanse it, clean it, normalize it, and we feed it back out to them. And it could either power their online directory off the bat. So sometimes people are literally hitting the Ribbon API when they're searching for care. And other times it'll go into the many different systems where provider data affects workflows. But either way, it's almost this like cleansing layer in the middle. And that's one of the many ways that we work with health plans.
That's interesting. And you mentioned providers, and you mentioned other patient solutions. Give me an example. Can you give me an example of a patient solution that I might not think about that's using Ribbon?
Yeah. So from a patient solution standpoint, I'll use an example of.
Feel free to name names. I'm sure not your customers are that embarrassed about you.
Hopefully not, but we're trying to be careful with that. But for a specialty care solution where somebody might go in and they're really there to get some kind of information on back pain or some other version of like an MSK problem, at some point or another, every single interaction point with the healthcare system will probably need a moment where somebody's sick and they need to find care. And so they can spin that up overnight. So they're direct-to-consumer tools where somebody kind of effectively uses them as a provider. And if they go in to get a prescription for a pill that they have a regular subscription to, like a Row as an example, and maybe they don't qualify for that prescription, or maybe they've been using that prescription, but there might be a deeper problem. And a lot of the times people are actually interacting with those tools as their primary care solution. And I think smartly, these platforms are now thinking about what that means and the responsibility they have to that patient. And so now with Ribbon, a new workflow opens up that says, hey, actually, you should see a cardiologist for this problem, not like interact with us in this asynchronous setting based on the information that you've entered, or based on information you could enter. Here are the cardiologists who are nearby who accept your insurance to actually focus on the thing that you need.
Fascinating, fascinating. So tell me a little bit about competition in the space. I mentioned the folks at Better Doctor, I think now part of Quest Analytics, not Quest Diagnostics. Yep. And then I mentioned Kairos, who I don't know if they will be using your data or will be competing with your data. And then I know that Google has been talking about doing something in this space. Now I hear that they know something about search, and they probably have some data somewhere in their system. And yep. It's possible people are searching doctors on Google. I've heard that might be the case. So give me a sense
every once in a while, yeah.
Everyone, give me a sense about when you show up. When you show up for those groups, are you seeing a lot of competition from organizations like that, or is everyone doing something so slightly different that you're kind of a little monopoly in what you're doing?
I think everyone's a little bit different, and the companies you mentioned before are great partners and channel partners for us. We take a very partnership-oriented approach. My view is that no one is going to solve this massive care navigation problem on their own, and so we believe in bringing people together. So we power a lot of other companies out there for certain products, even some of the ones that you might have mentioned. Okay. I think the biggest piece of competition, honestly, that I believe is happening in the ecosystem is apathy. It's going to a health plan where they say, technology can't solve this problem. I remember looking at this thing 8 years ago and that didn't work, so why would this? And it does, and it's cheaper and it's faster, but we're still at the very first inning of being able to change this problem. And so that's what we are competing with. If we see somebody else in there, awesome. We'll let the data speak for itself. You can sample our data. You can go to our website right now, request an API token, and see that it's better. It's really for the folks that we have to convince that they can actually solve this hard problem with Ribbon.
Yeah, that's the health plan guys I had in the room 12 years ago, whatever, who like putting their head in their hands and going, "Can't be done." But
yeah.
And on that note, and on the health plan side, and I think also on the provider side, are there some policy requirements that are pushing that you're aware? I know there was some discussion at one point about, and maybe it's just in California or elsewhere, about plans having to be accurate, having their provider directories or being fined for having inaccurate provider directories. Give me a sense about how big a deal that is for the health plans, or is it just like, was this like the transparency rules where the hospitals are just hiding their transparency sets from Google?
Yeah, I think that the regulation has been a net positive, and I think it's actually bringing attention to a really hard problem. Personally, I think that we could use more attention on the matter, but I also think that we need thoughtful regulation. Like, you can't just say publish provider directories in a FHIR compliant standard and that's it. Health plans need direction. These people are busy. There's a lot that they have going on. I don't think they have a vested interest in an accurate provider directory. So they're not trying to make them inaccurate. They're just solving many different problems. So we're all for the regulation.
I agree with you about that one, but that's a separate. it's like the demo and then the actuality of the performance in software, right?
That might be fair, but
no, it doesn't really.
I have yet to meet a health plan executive that said, "I want more member complaints on provider phone numbers."
To be discussed, but I'm sure their NPSs would improve a little bit if they. I mean, this is just such a critical issue. And on that policy issue, I mean, part of it is, have you seen any implications? Has there been an uptick or an interest since the Surprise Billing Act and all that legislation going? Does that impact? Does that trickle down to more interest for you? I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy about that, and
yeah. Yeah, it absolutely does. I think we've seen health plans reach out and start to think about no surprises as a function of the provider data asset and the infrastructure that is powering that. And so we're doing work there, and I think it's great. And again, I love every piece of attention that makes the healthcare consumer experience better. And we view this as a small part of that.
Fantastic. All right, so we mentioned at the start you've got a decent Series A was in March and Series B just happened. So give me a sense about where the company is in terms of growth of people, growth of clients, growth of numbers? Or even tell me about how fast, how well Ribbon is doing, how fast, and where you think you're going to be in a year or two.
Yeah, I think we're moving quickly and we want to move faster. So since we raised the Series A about a year and a half ago, we grew from 5 people to over 60, growing from about 14 to 60 this year. We're looking to triple again over the next 13 months, and so have a very aggressive hiring goal. We're live with about 35 healthcare enterprises today, and we want to at least double that. And I get really excited about applying this funding for the products that the ecosystem needs. So better data assets, better distribution, being able to facilitate access with things like appointment booking and referral completion. So we have a pretty aggressive roadmap. And so for the folks listening that are thinking about what might be next for them, we are actively hiring across literally every team.
Absolutely. I'm sure you're employing a few data scientists, and given you had $40 million, you can probably afford about 3.
Yeah, in this market, maybe fewer.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this on a recent episode of my TCB gang, and with a couple of VCs, and they were saying, "Yep, we were talking about the great shortage of employers everywhere, and it's not just for people like to work in grocery stores and work in the car wash. Just a lot of shortage of those very highly paid and highly technical players in the sort of data analysis and engineering game. So I'm sure you have a strategy for that. I hope you have a strategy for that.
We do have a strategy for that, and it's really just tied to creating the kind of environment that people want to work in.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. But as you know, this is I hope you'll come back, Nate, because this is a fascinating topic, and one that I've been looking at for a better part of 20 years in healthcare, and it drives people crazy at every aspect, from consumers to providers and it's one of those things where there are an interesting solution like yours, a set of solutions like yours, could be part of the answer to taking all that administrative crap out of healthcare, which drives us all nuts, and doesn't, as you said, doesn't actually get anybody anywhere. So
that's
hopefully,
right.
Hopefully you'll go from strength, continue to go from strength to strength, and look forward to coming back and seeing that hey, that problem somehow went away magically because of close people like you.
Yeah, a lot more work to do, but we're gonna chip away at it. So thank you for having me on. This has been a blast, and excited to come back on again soon.
All right, I'm talking with Nate Maslak. He is the CEO of Ribbon Health, which is fixing that whole provider directory mess and a bunch of other stuff, as you heard. That's Matthew Holt signing off on THCB Spotlight.